One thing to be very careful of when we're working with functions is to make sure that we've scoped all our variables correctly and that they're doing what they think we're going to do. What variable scope means is that each variable that we declare within our script has a specific scope from which it is accessible and from which we can make changes to its value. For instance, a variable that we declare inside a function is not going to be accessible from outside that function, and a variable that we declare outside the function is not going to be accessible from within it. Let's take a look at an example to see the way this works. First of all, we'll just set a variable, let's call it number, and we're going to set it to the value of 4. And then we're going to echo that to the browser like this. I'm going to put a line break in there as well. And then we're going to set up a function at the end of our script. And let's call this function myfunc. We don't need to give it a particularly useful name because we're only going to be using it to exemplify the way variable scope works. We've got no arguments, so we simply open those round brackets and close them again. Then we use curly brackets to demarcate the block of text that's going to represent what the function does. What the function is going to do in this case is going to set a variable called number, and we're going to set the value of that to 10. Then we're going to echo within the function the value is, and then we're going to put number, and again a line break. That's our function, and that's the end of our script. Now we're going to call the function from here, simply like that. Now, as we noted in the previous movie, it doesn't matter where we declare our function, we can call the function. So long as we declare the function somewhere in the script, we can call it wherever we like. So it's quite acceptable to have the function declared right at the end of our script. And in fact, that's a clearer way of working because it keeps those functions out of the way of the script, the flow of the main part of the script. Finally, we're going to have a last echo statement, and that's going to say a very similar thing to the previous ones. Basically, all these do is echo the number and a little reference so that we know from what part of the script that's being transmitted. Let's take a look in our browser. Now, as we can see, at the beginning of the script, we get the value 4. The second time it's echoed from within the function, the value 10 is given, and at the end, the value 4 is given. Let's take a look back here, and we'll see that this line has produced the output 4, this line produces the output 10, and when we call the number variable a third time, the value 4 is given again. Now, intuitively, we may think that since we set this variable here, once myfunc is processed, then this line should also give the result 10. However, it doesn't. It gives 4, and the reason for that is that these two variables, number that's declared out here and number that's declared within the function, are in fact two entirely separate variables. It is quite possible to use variables with the same name inside and outside of functions and have them doing completely different things. It is a good idea to, as much as possible, avoid that kind of thing, simply to make sure it's easy to, at a glance, looking at your script, see what a particular variable is supposed to be doing and which variable is which. However, because of variable scope, we can see that these variables are kept entirely separate. Now, the exception to this rule is if we specifically declare within our function that a variable should be global. And this is the way we do it. We use the global keyword and then we specify the number there. Let's take a look. If we save that and go back to our browser, what happens here? As we can see, the function has now altered not only the effect of the variable within itself, the number variable, but also the variable outside. In effect, by saying this, we're effectively referring to this number, this variable as well, and any other variable number that we could use within a different function. We're going to take a little more look at the use of variables within functions in our next movie.